So we're going to start the Mishnah on Metzia and Beis. We're talking about the sugya of Oina. Oina is overcharging or undercharging, essentially a fraudulent transaction, where the Torah says it's a pasuk. The Torah says that someone is, you're not allowed to cause someone either to pay more, or a buyer can't defraud the seller and cause him to pay him less than what the thing is worth. And similarly, the seller can't defraud the buyer and charge him more than what the object is worth. Don't ask me how you determine the value. There are different types of systems in place, or it was more uniform. So that's the Mishnah. Ha'ino arba kesef me'esrim v'arba kesef l'sela. The amount of oina is $4, let's say, dollars, or 4 silver coins out of 24 coins. So we'll use dollars as our convention. So $4 out of $24. Which from a seller that's worth $24. Shtus l'mekach. So that's a sixth of the mekach, right? 4 out of 24 is a sixth. So that's the first one. The first one is the quantity of the fraud. Ad mosai muta lahachzer. Until what point can you be chayzer? That means, or to be chayzer, meaning depending on the circumstances, there's going to be different rules if it's less than a sixth, exactly a sixth, or more than a sixth. Sometimes the din will be that you can get a refund, and sometimes the din will be that it's a mekach tais and you can be mevatel the mekach. So until what point can you go back? Do you have the right to go back and say? And Bapashas, our Mishnah is talking about specifics. We're talking about where it's exactly a sixth. So until what time can the person who was defrauded go back? Until he goes to ask another peddler, another storekeeper, or his relative. He asks someone who knows the facts, whether this is an appropriate amount. You call up your cousin who's in diamonds, and you say, I bought this 2-carat diamond for $5,000. Is that an appropriate amount? Rabbi Tarfon belud. Rabbi Tarfon paskined in Lud. Hayno shmoina kesef me'esem v'arba kesef l'sela. He had a different amount. He said there has to be a bigger discrepancy in order for it to be treated as Hayno. So Hayno is going to be, if you have shmoina kesef, 8 kesef, me'esem v'arba kesef, out of 24 kesef l'sela, for a seller. So shlish l'mekach, so that's a third. So obviously he's more forgiving. He says that even if it's less than, if you overcharge by 7 rather than 8, that wouldn't be the din of Oina. The samchu tagre Lud, and the sellers in the marketplace of Lud were very happy with this. They said, we got a break. The Chachamim always said that it has, even if it's just 1/6, that's already Oina. Reb Tarfon said it has to be 1/3, which is gives us a lot more room to rip people off. Amalahem, but then Reb Tarfon continued. He said, it's not the end of my din. There's another part to it. I'm chaylik on the Tanakama in another facet. Kol hayoim muta lachsa. The second din, right? We said there's 2 parts. There's 2 issues in the Mishnah. One is how much, what is the size, what is the quantity of Oina? And the second is how long does the defrauded party have to declare to say, oh, I want to go redo this because you defrauded me. So the Tanakama had said, until you bring it to someone to check it, you have to go down the block, an hour maybe, or half hour, or 2 hours. I'm sorry, I skipped. Reb Tarfon said, no, it's the whole day. You have an entire day until the end of the day to, I don't know if Kol Hayom means till the next day or the entire day till that night, but it's a longer period of time that the person who was cheated can go back and say, I want my money back, or I want to get refunded for the amount I overpaid. Amru Loi, so the Tagre Lud were disappointed. They said, let's we're not gonna go follow Reb Tarfon. We're gonna stay where we were. We're gonna go back to what the Chacham. Now I'm not sure exactly how this works, that people get to pick who they want to follow, but this is what they did. They said it's not worth it for us to get a larger amount where we can go up to a sixth and not have the din of Ainah. We'd rather go but give our victims extra time to find out about it and enforce on us that we have to undo the transaction or pay them back the extra. We'd rather give them a shorter time, even though it's only a third, up to a sixth. I'm sorry, not an entire third. As long as we don't have that it's hanging over us the whole day, that they can go find out about what we did. So we just have to, before we start the Gemara, we have to be makdim. We're talking about here, I've been talking in sort of in general terms here about Ainah. But Ainah is really divided into three distinct periods. There's three distinct rules. There's the rule of Ainah itself, which is exactly, according to the Tanakama, sixth, or Derech Tarfon, it will be exactly a third. Although we'll see there's some flexibility in that, or Tarfon has an exception from that, but there's the din of the actual Ainah, and it's a machlokes between this Mishnah and the Gemara later on, but essentially the rule is that the discretion in the case of actual Ainah, when it's the amount that the Torah talks about, is that the buyer, or in the case of a seller who was overcharged, we'll talk about a buyer to keep it simple, but it really works both ways. The buyer has discretion. He can say, I want a refund. Now, our Mishnah holds that not only can he ask for a refund, he could also say, I want to undo the sale altogether. But the bottom line is the buyer who was overcharged has the right to ask for a refund. If it's less than the amount of Ainah, then the deal works. We say that's called mechila. If it's less than we'll stick with the Chachamim who say a sixth. If the overcharging of the buyer was less than a sixth, then we say he's meichel. Then it's going to be a question about whether he can ask for, although he doesn't have the ability to ask to refund it, as we said in our Mishnah, but he does have the ability to ask for his refund. So that's in our Mishnah that says that he has the ability, that he says that in Ainah he has the ability, the buyer has the ability to ask to make it a mekach tais and undo the deal. So we would say that less than that he doesn't have the right to do the deal, and he could ask for a refund. And then if it's more than the amount of Ainah, then l'kuli alma it's a mekach tais, and anyone can say, I want to undo this transaction. Okay, Itmar. So I'm going to go into the Gemara. But this is not immediately relevant, but this is in general, you have to, whenever we're talking about Oina, you have to realize when we're talking about B'derech Klal, and what the Mishnah was directly talking about is the case of the actual Oina, what the Torah talks about, which is specifically 1/6 in the Tanakhama, or Tarfin, a third. Itmar. And it's strange, right? Because it's obviously the unusual case when it's precisely 1/6, and that's what we're always talking about. You'd think that normally the larger examples are the ones more than a 6 or less than a 6. So that's Gemara. Itmar. Rav Amar shtus mekach shanim. The machlekes, we're talking about a sixth. What is that sixth? The sixth of what? So Rav says the shtus is, the sixth is the actual market value of what was sold, right? So if someone bought a coat, we're going to give examples, right? So it's going to have to be if the coat was, if the person who bought it was overcharged by a sixth of the value of the coat, then it's going to be I know. If it's less than that, then it's not I know. If it's more than that, then it's mekach tois. Ushmul Amar shtus mois nami shanin. Shmuel says that's true what you said. It goes by a sixth of the value of the coat is going to be I know, but in addition to that, if it's also a sixth of the amount that he paid, let's say the coat was worth $100 and he paid $200. I'm sorry, he paid, well, whatever, we'll see. If he paid 120, so the amount he overpaid is 20, so that 20 is a sixth of the amount he paid. Now it's not a sixth of 100, but even so, that's going to have the din of I know. Like we said, I know it means the exact amount, exactly 1/6. So he says you have two options. It could either be if he overpaid, if the person who bought it overpaid, he bought it for 120, or if he overpaid by I don't know exactly what it'd be, a sixth of 100 is something like 116 and a third, I think. So he says shtus mois nami sheninu. So we give example, better examples than the one I gave. Shavi shisa b'chamisha. If he took something that was worth 6 and he sold it for 5, so then it was one. So it was the overcharge was 1. Actually it was undercharged. So he undercharged by 1, or shavi shisa b'shiva, or if he overcharged by 1, everyone will agree that even Shmuel, who says that you go by the amount of that was paid, a sixth of the amount that was paid, he agrees also that a sixth of the value of the mekach is also going to be Aina. Vainavi, it's going to be Aina. Ki pligi, where are they going to argue? Shavi chamisha besisha. If something that was worth 5 was sold for 6, so the actual value is 5 and was sold for 6, so 1 is not a sixth of 5. So according to Rav, that would not be Aina. That would be more than Aina. That would be Betul Mekach. V'shavi Shiva B'shisa, also something that was worth 7 that was sold for 6. So the value is 7 and it was sold for 6. So then 1 is less than a sixth. It's a 7th of the amount of the value. So Shmuel Amad Basa Moy says Linan Aidi V'Aidi I know Havi. This second case as well is also I know. The Rav Dama Basa Mekach Hazlina. But according to Rav, that says we go after that we only go Basar whether it's a sixth of the value of the thing that was sold. Shavi Chamisha B'Sisha Bito Mekach Havi. When it's something that's worth 5 that was sold for 6, it's Betul Mekach, because it's only 1/5 of the it's 1/5 of the value, which is more than 1/6. Shavi Shiva B'Shisa Mechila Havi. Like we said, if it's less than a sixth, it's Mechila. If it's more than a sixth, it's Betul. When we say Mechila and bittul. Mechila means that the person, that means if it's less than the amount of oino, then the din is mechila. That they're both meichel. They're not going to demand any compensation. And if it's more than a sixth, then the din is bittul mekach. That either one of them can say we want to be mevatel the mekach. Obviously, if they both agree to continue with the mekach, they're allowed to do so. Ushmul amar ki aminim bechilo bittul mekach. Shmuel holds that you have to have that it's neither when you calculate based on the value. It can't be when is it going to be bittul mekach if it's meaning if it's more than a sixth, and when is it going to be less than when is it going to be mechila where it's less than a sixth? That means it has to be both less than a sixth of the value and it's less than a sixth of the amount that was paid. As long as it's going to be, as long as it's exactly a sixth from either way of cheshboning, it's going to have the din of oidna. So now we're going to try to bring a raya in this question. Tnan, we learned in our Mishnah. Dalid kesef me'esem v'arba kesef l'sela. Shtus l'mekach. We said in our Mishnah, if you have 4 kesef out of 24, that's a sixth of a mekach. Excuse me. My love, the zovin shavi esrim be'esrim ba'arba. Is it not talking about we sold something that was worth 20 for 24? Right, so then we're going, so the 4 is a sixth of the amount that you paid for it, not the amount that it was worth. It was only worth 20. So 4 is a fifth of 20. Shmami nosh dus mois, nami shaninu. So l'chayra, it's a raya to Shmuel that was saying even we can go based on a shtus mekach. It doesn't have to be the amount, a shtus of how much it was worth. Oh, this is annoying. I didn't clean my room for Pesach, and that meant taking away my tissue box. Look tomorrow. Well, just give me a second. I'm going to come back. Excuse me, sorry. So the Gemara says, it's a riot to Shmuel, because we're saying that when something that was worth 20 was sold for 24, which is a fourth of so then 4 is a sixth of the amount it was sold for, of the mois. That's a raya to Shmuel. My love, the Zovin Shavi Esem Be'esem V'arba V'shamina Shrus Mois Nami Shaninu. So, the Zovin Shavi Esem V'arba Be'esem, even though the Mashmois is like that, but it doesn't have to be B'dafka. It could be talking about something that was worth 24 and it was sold for 20. So, what does that mean? If it's something that was sold for 20, even though it was worth 24, Minasana, who's the one who was cheated? Meicher, right? It was he got less than what it was worth. So he wanted to make it that it was a sixth of the value. And so therefore we switched it around. We said it's talking about the value is 24 and it was sold for 20. So that means the Meicher was the one who was cheated. Ema Seifa, I'll ask you from the Seifa. How long does he have to go to be chayzer on it? But they should until he can go show it to another storekeeper or to his karev and tell him how much something is worth. That's only leikeach, only a purchaser. He is right. He's the one who doesn't have the knowledge. The storekeeper knows exactly what the score is. So he's the one who the purchaser is not an expert. He's the asymmetrical. He's the one who has yadei al tachtaina over here as far as knowledge. He has the right. He has time to go check. But the meicher can always be chayzer because he doesn't have because he was underpaid. We're going to explain. We're going to see later on why he could be Eilim Chayzer. But the limitation of how long you have to look at it is only relevant to Leikeach. So how can we say the first case of the Mishnah is talking about a Meicher who had something that was worth 24 and he only got 20? But later, then we say the din that how long he has to be Chayzer, and that only applies to the purchaser, not the seller. Ella Zaktamar the Shavi Esrim Ve'ava. We're talking about where he sold something that was worth 24 for 28. So therefore, when we said it was 4, the difference was 4, the discrepancy was 4. It means the discrepancy was still for the benefit of the meicher and the loss of the lekeach. And it was based on the value. The value is 24, and a sixth of that is 4. So he overpaid by 4. He paid 28, and therefore it's going to have a din oino. So the Gemara continues and asks essentially the same exact question, the same precise shakla v'tarya on the seif of the Mishnah. Snan Rav Tarfon Belud. He said it's 8 out of 24. So which was Lasella, which is a sella of 24. Shlish lamekach, which is a third of the mekach. My lab, the zav and shavi sitzuri be'esemav, is not talking about where he sold something that was worth 16 for 24. And you see that we're talking about a third based on the mice, like Shmuel said. Even it could even be based on the mice. It doesn't have to be bedafka based a third of the value. It's talking about where he sold something that was worth 24 for 16. So Minasan, in that case, who's the one who was defrauded? The Meicher. The Meicher got paid. He was underpaid. So then Reb Tarfon continued and said he has a whole day to be chayzer on his sale. And we said that rule only applies to leikeach, not to the meicher. So how can we say it's talking about where the meicher was underpaid if the sefer says the din of how long you're allowed to be chayzer, which we say only applies to the leikeach, to the purchaser? Ela desravin shavi chavdalid betlos and utrin. We're talking about over here where he sold something that was worth 24 for 32. So therefore, we are talking about with the eight shkalim or the 8 kesef that we talked about is talking about overpayment. We're talking about the lekeh. Okay, so again, the same shakavatariya. So our Mishnah does not prove whether Shmuel is right that in addition to there being a din of Ainoah when the value was off by a sixth, and Shmuel says not just the value, also if the mayas was off by a sixth, we don't have a riot from the Mishnah. Tanya Avose de Shmuel. I'll bring you a different riot to Shmuel. Misha hotel love Yodai al hal yoin. We say the one who was defrauded, the one who was cheated, his hand is on top. Ketzad. What does that mean? Machal shavahei bevav. If the seller sold the buyer something that was worth 5 for 6, minasana, who is the one who was cheated? The lekeach. Yad lekeach al hal yoin. The yad, at that point, the lekech has the choice. At that point, he could say, either give me my money, or give me that which I was, or refund me the amount that I was cheated. This is what we spoke about before. That's our Mishnah Shita. That in the case of Oina, the person who was cheated has a choice to say, either give my money or give me what I was, give me back my money and undo the whole sale, or give me the refund me the amount that I was cheated. But we said, it was machal shava hey bevav, right? So it was something that was worth 5 for 6. So that's 1/5 of the value. It's 1/6 of the amount of money that was paid, but it's 1/5 of the value. We give machal shava sheish b'chamish, or if we sold him something that was worth 6 for 5. So minasana, who is the one who was cheated in that case? Meicher. The meicher did not get his full value. He got 1/6 less. Yad meicher al yain. In that case, the meicher is the one who has the upper hand. He could either say, give me back the thing I sold you and I'll give you back your 5 shekel, or else you have to give me an extra shekel. So in that case, it's taka true. In that case, that could be according to both Rav and Shmuel. The case of Meicher, because that's talking about something that was worth 6, that was sold for 5. So then it's 1/5 of the value. But the first case that we gave, where the lekeach was cheated, then it's talking about where the amount that was paid, it was 1/6 of the amount that was paid, right? It was something that was shava hey bevav. It was sold for 6. So the discrepancy is 1. And it's 1, so it's 1/5 of the value and 1/6 of the mois. So that's l'chayra a raya to Shmuel that you have either option. It could either be the 6th can be calculated either based on the amount that was paid or the value of the thing that was sold.
You meaning you're making a diak from the brisa that the lashon that was used is only going according to Shmuel.
It's not a diak. The case. The case is only going to Shmuel.
Right. I mean this price
case. Yeah. According to Rav, that would not be a case of Ainah. That would be a case of Bittul Mekach. According to him, it's 1/5. If you calculate it based on the value, then it's a 1/5 of the value. So it's Bittul Mekach. It's not Ainah where you have a choice. It's not Yad Lekech Halal Yoy. Ibaylu. It didn't get complicated yet. That was where it starts to get a little complicated. Ibaylu. Hachas mishtos, right? We've been talking about, until now, we've been talking about, we've been assuming the Mishnah is talking about the case, generally talking about the case of Ainah, which is exactly a 1/6 or exactly a 1/3. But we said if it's less than a 1/3, then the din is the mekach is machal. They're machal on less than that amount. Ibaylu hachas mishtos. If it's less than a shtos, so it's in the category of mechila. The Rabbanan, according to Rabbanan, let's say 6. La'alta have a mechila. Do we say that which we say it's a din of mechila, that we assume he's meichel and he can't be chayzer? Does that mean that immediately, as soon if it's less than a 6, there's an inherent understanding that there's an ansadi or everyone is bound to say that they're meichel on it less than a 6? Or do we say no, he still has an opportunity to go back to be chayzer and say, you have to pay me back the extra amount, or maybe he'll be able to say that I want to undo the deal, but we'll see in a second. But maybe it's not a mechila until he had a chance to show it to someone, like the Rabbanan say that you have up till the time to the amount of time before the din of Ainah is enforced. You only have the din of Ainah is up till the time that you have a chance to sow some. So does that apply even if it's less than the amount of Ainah? Do we say that the sale is not consummated and it's not considered mechila until he had a chance to check out whether, nowadays it would be he would just have to look on his phone and go on Amazon and compare the price on Amazon, see if he's getting ripped off. But back then they had to go ask someone. And if you'll say that he has a chance to go show it to someone. Ma'ika ben shtus lapachas mishtus. What's going to be the difference? We said that if it's above a shtus, he has a choice. The buyer has a choice. I could get it refunded or I can undo the mekach. So now if we're saying that the person, and we said the limit of that is also only until he has a chance to show someone. Once he had a chance to show someone, he didn't say anything, then it's too late, he can't enforce it. So we're saying you have the same thing for someone that's pachas mishtus, so what's the difference? It's like tomorrow, ikka de ilu shtus, yada al yoina. When someone is exactly a shtus, where you have a din of oina, so let's say we're talking about a purchaser who overpaid, yada al yoina. His hand is on top. He has the upper hand. Rotza chayzer. If he wants, he could say, I don't want to do this whole deal. Take back your chayfetz and give me back my money. Rotza kainu machzer. He can go to him and say, no, you know what? I overpaid you. Give me back the extra I overpaid. I know. I know. Ilu pachas mishtus, but less than a shtus, there's not a question of whether the kinyan can be invalidated. He can't go back to him, even if it's before the zman of where he had a chance to go ask someone. And he goes to him and he says, I checked up with it and it's no good. He can't say, I don't want to do this transaction. Kana umachzoino. All he could do is say, I want my money back. But he doesn't have the ability to say, I want to undo the transaction. Mine. So that's the question. Is that ability do we say that someone who buys something for less than the share of Oino, less than a sixth, do we say it's too bad, you're really Michael and you don't get anything? Or do you say up till the time of he has a chance to check with someone, he can go around the corner and check and come right back and say, I want you to refund the money. So essentially that's what the question is. Does he have the ability to ask for a refund if it's less than the shiroi, if it's less than the shiroi no?
Let me just get this straight. So we're saying that. So my ikbenayu, I got it. If you have the ability to go ask your friends and neighbors, what's the difference if it's a shtus or less than a shtus? What's this concept of mechila? It says that if it's a sixth, then he's yada al yaina, and he has the ability to either do you can mevatel the mechira altogether, or you can ask for your money back. Can you just help me through the second part of the sentence though? The ilu pachas mishtos, but if it was less than a six, the guy made a nice what's called again on the sale. He made a price of it. So in that situation, kana umachzer no. What does that mean? Kana umachzer no.
That means that he does the buyer does not have, like, if it would be exactly a sixth, he would have the ability to undo the sale. He does not have any ability to undo the sale. The sale is going through Mamarsha. But as long as it's before the time of as long as he's within the grace period, he can still say, I want a refund for the extra that I paid.
But that was his profit. What am I missing? That was his profit. Meaning they agreed upon a
so you're looking at it as a profit. It's not. The din is Be'etzim he's supposed to do the market value. Market value has built-in profit.
Right. That's what I was asking. That's the concept.
Yeah, for sure. Like we said with the money changers, they're making money in the first place. They're allowed to take a little extra. He gets it from a wholesaler for less, and that he's allowed to. He doesn't have to sell it for the price that he got it at. But there is a market price for retail sellers.
Got it.
If he goes over that, then the purchaser, if he's within the grace period, can ask for a refund. If it's a full sixth, then he could ask to undo the mekach altogether. So that's a question. I mean, we're asking as a shiloh. Do we say he has the ability to ask for a refund while he's within the grace period? Is there a grace period? Or do we say no, if it's underneath the sixth, it's a mechila, and there's nothing you can do about it. Even if you turn around right away, the sale is a sale, and it's done. So we want to bring a raya. Toshma. Now we're going to turn to the second part of the Mishnah, right? Where we had said we had said the Shakavatariya of Reb Tarfon. Reb Tarfon came and said that the amount of Oino is a sixth. And all of the sellers were very excited. They said, "Oh, look, we've got a great deal. We can go up to a third with instead of being a sixth, the amount of Oino is a third, and we have more grace period that we could more of a not a grace period. We can oversell by a larger amount and still not be subject to the rule of Oino." Then Reb Tarfon said, "Not so fast. I give a larger grace period to the seller. They have till the end of the day, not just till they can go and ask someone." So they said, "You know what? Forget about Reb Tarfon. It's not worth it for us. We'd rather be able to rip people off quickly, and if they as long as they're befuddled and they don't go quickly to ask someone, it's too late. Rather than be having more, making a larger rip off, but they have longer time to find out about it and undo the transaction." The Tagre Lud, the peddlers of Lud, said we'd rather stick with the Chacham. Savrua. Less than a third to Reb Tarfon, L'chaira, is Kapachas Mishtos L'Rabbanan, is similar to less than a sixth of the Rabbanan, dummy. So, Iyamr B'Shlama Pachas Mishtos L'Rabbanan, B'chdei Sheyir L'Tagar L'Krayva. If you say that, according to the Rabbanan, there is a grace period, and during that grace period, the purchaser can go back and ask for a refund, even though it's less than the amount of Oino. Well, Reb Tarfon Kol Hayoim, and according to Reb Tarfon, he said that grace period is longer, that even less than a shtus, or less than a third, according to Reb Tarfon, he has a whole day. They have a whole day to go to their experts and find out that they were overcharged, even if it was just by $1. Then it makes a lot of sense that they were chayzer, because they have this wide range of area, right? The most common transactions, the most common types of fraud are the smaller frauds. It's not where a person overcharges by a sixth. The more common situation is someone overcharged by a few dollars. So the lengthening of the time in which somebody has to go and find out that they were defrauded will make a very big difference to the Tagre Lud. They say, we'd rather have the shorter time period for this, where to take away the ability of a lekeach who had a small taina, who was just a little bit overcharged. We'd rather have a smaller time than a longer time. We don't want him to come to have a full day warranty. But if you say that, like the other side of our svara, that there is no grace period on less than the shir of Aina, which is a sixth to the Rabbanan and a third to Reb Tarfon. So, Reb Tarfon namil alta have mechila, and Reb Tarfon would say the same thing. It's also mechila immediately. Amai chazu b'der Reb Tarfon. Why were they chayzer? Why were they chayzer to go to the Rabbanan? But Reb Tarfon nichelu tfei. It's better for them for Reb Tarfon. The Rabbanan kamashvul loyna Reb Tarfon have a mechila, because there's going to be an afkamina. According to Reb Tarfon, anything up to a third, there's not going to be anything to talk about. The purchaser, which is, like we said, the more common type of fraud is the fraud of less than the share of Aina. And according to and we're saying now that as long as you're less than the share of Aina, the buyer has no recourse. It's immediately considered a mechila. So according to Reb Tarfon, that will extend all the way up to a third. So that means if he sold something that was worth, like we said, 24, it could be, even if he sold it for up to a third of 24, up to 30, 31, the buyer will not be able to do anything. So even though it's true that when it's going to be a third, then it's going to be that he's going to have a whole day in which to think about it and find out and go back and say, I want to be bevatel the mekach or get a refund for the mekach. But that's not as big a deal as the fact that up to everything between a sixth and a third of an overcharging, it's going to be considered a mechila right away. So the Targei Lud should have been happy with that. They shouldn't have been chayzer. So the Gemara, misavris. Pachas mishlish le'tafin kapachas mishtush le'rabanan. The Gemara says no. You're going on a wrong assumption. Even though Rav Tarfon said that the amount of eino is a shlish, he treats between the amount between a third and a sixth. Let's say, for example, in the case of an overpayment by a buyer, anything between where it was overpaid by a sixth up until where it was overpaid by a third, mishtus v'ad shlish Reb Tarfon k'shtus atzma l'Rabbanan. No, Reb Tarfon says when he says it's that a shtus that a shlish is the shir eino, he will agree that the amounts between a sixth and between a third and a sixth is all treated like oino. So he has the chance, the buyer will have the chance to both be asked for a mechila or for a refund when it's less than as long as the overcharging is anything between a third and a sixth. Now, once it's over a third, then either party has the right to be mevatel the entire mekach. But Reb Tarfon, even though he said a third, he didn't mean to preclude the amount between a sixth and a third. He was saying that it goes for that whole range between a third and a sixth. So Gemara, ihachi, v'may samchu meikara. If Reb Tarfon was just saying that there's a bigger part that's considered oina, that it's not just a sixth, but everything between a sixth and a third is all considered oina. So why were the Tagrim, why were the peddlers happy in the first place? Zakt Gemara, tifshet debitel mechach l'Rabbanan la'olam chayzer. It must be that according to the Rabbanan, there's a question: how long do you have to ask for bittul mekach? There's a Manda Abba who says that the question of what we're asking, what we're saying, the machlekes of Rav Tarfon and the Rabbanan is only legabi someone who wants to get a refund, and that's going to be limited to either as long as you can bring it to a taga or till the end of the day. But maybe if he's asking for a bittul mekach, he always has that option. So if l'chayra, if we're saying that it was semeach to hear that it goes up to a third, so it must be that you always have the ability to ask for a bittul mekach. So since he said that this amount, I'm sorry, just a second. Right, we said that. No, I'm sorry, I misstated this. The question is Gabi the din of bittul mekach. When the amount of the fraud was more than the amount of oina. The question is how long under those circumstances, right? We were talking about the din of oina itself. Now we're asking a shaila of where it's the amount of mechila, which is less than the share of oina. Now we're talking about a question of the amount of more than the amount of oina, which according to Reb Tarfon is more than a third, and according to the Chachamim, the Rabbanan is more than a sixth. So we have a question. If it's more than the share of oina, how long do the parties have to ask to undo the thing? They could agree to keep the transaction, But how long do they have to try to be mevatel the mechel? Do we have the limitations of what Reb Tarfon and the Chacham were arguing about? Do we say it's up to the share of the amount of time to ask someone, or do we say it's till the end of the day, or do we say no? The din of bittul mekach, of where it's more than the share of Ainah, is there's no time limit on that. So l'chayr from this, it would seem to indicate that there is no shear of amount of time. So therefore, the fact that Reb Tarfon, the Tagri Lud were happy to hear about Reb Tarfon must be because he extended the shear of Ainah from all the way from a sixth to a third. So the Tagri Lud were happy about that because they no longer had to worry that if they do it more than the shear of Ainah, of more than a sixth, then the person they sold it to has forever to retract the transaction. Because according to Reb Tarfon, it's not over a sixth, it's anything between a sixth and a third. So up to a third, they're not going to have forever. They're going to be limited up till the end of the day. So then it would make sense. What were they happy about? They have nothing to be happy about. The din of Ainah, according to Reb Tarfon, extended from a third to a sixth, so it didn't really help them. It just made it that there's a bigger target. So Gemara. Samchu b'shtus atzma. The Gemara answers no. The difference is a shtus itself. It seems like that was a very common amount for people to overcharge. The Reb Tarfon, an exact sixth, mechila. According to him, it's below the amount. Reb Tarfon says anything between a sixth and a third is considered Ainah, but a sixth itself is not Ainah. It's mechila. Rabbanan Ainah. According to Rabbanan, it will be Ainah. Okay, we'll stop over here. I'm sorry, I went a little longer than I thought.
Might just ask a question that's bothering me since the Mishnah. Why is the common denominator here at 24, not at 12? In other words, it would be the same sixth or a third if you work with the 12.
No, we just gave an example.
Right,
why did they pick to do it that way? Because
why not a 12? It would work the same way with a 12, a sixth and a third.
Let me think about it. Because let's say you were overcharging by a sixth, it would be. I'm not sure. I have to go through all the examples in the Gemara and see if they all fit. Right? It would be instead of 32, a sixth more would be. Yeah. Why did we do 12? I don't know. It's Taka. You're a math. You have a mathematical head.
I'm not. I mean, it's just I think of it in a. Maybe that's how we were taught because we always look for a least common denominator.
Right.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. There must have been some sort of standardized 24.
No, you know why? I think because the Sela is 24 shkalim.
Right, that's why I thought.
Okay. That makes sense.
I think we're talking about a Sela in the Mishnah. I think a Sela is 24 of some other coin. I don't know which one.
Yeah, but I agree with Rafal. I'm not math inclined, and my life would be easier if we were used 12, the lowest common. The numbers would feel better for me. And once it goes up a little higher, I go, oh, really? What's the story for Yanta?
Well, that's why I'm waiting for the.
Still didn't come out.
Let me stop.